My name is Paul Holden. I'm the President and CEO of the Burnaby Board of Trade, and welcome to today's session, which is called Accessing Talent to Support Your Business. I'd like to start off by acknowledging that the event, or at least where I'm sitting, is held on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam and Squamish nations. So this event is part of our business resilience programming, which is offered by our Centre for Burnaby Business Recovery and Resilience. The centre really is your hub for COVID-19 supports and economic development activities to help support the recovery of our economy and community. The centre just launched relatively recently, and it came out of the work that was done by our task force that we had about 9 months ago now, our task force for business recovery. The centre is sponsored by a number of organisations, and I'd like to acknowledge those as well, because it's their work and support that makes this centre possible. So at the platinum level, we have SFU, Douglas, and the BCIT School of Business and Media. At the gold level, we have Electronic Arts and the TD Bank Group. And at silver, we have Pacific Blue Cross, Fortis BC, and Hemlock Printers. I'd also like to thank our annual partners, who are those organisations who stand out as real excellent corporate citizens in Burnaby and support our work throughout the year. And I think you can see all of their logos on the screen right now. For today's event, I'd like to extend special recognition to the BC Chamber of Commerce, BCIT, Douglas College, and SFU, who are partners on this event, and we're really pleased to be joined by their representatives today. I would like to remind all of you the event is being recorded for sharing afterwards, and we do encourage you to enter your questions in the chat and Q&A function, and we'll get to as many of those as we can. Before we introduce our speakers, I wanted to just make a few personal comments on the importance, I think, of the webinar that we're doing here and the work that will then, we hope, come out of that webinar. Something we've seen for a number of years, but perhaps even more highlighted during this past year, is the important role that post-secondary students can play and the post-secondary institutions can play in helping businesses in either project areas or just generally to help them in the course of running their business. We've experimented over the years. We've seen lots of work in the area of internships or co-op placements. But an area where we had some great success last year was where we were able to put some students into business situations where the businesses had opportunities or challenges that they wanted to address, and the students were able to work with them either on their own or in pairs to help those businesses move forward. And the key area that we were working with businesses then was in digital development. Obviously, everyone recognized that as the world was becoming more virtual during the COVID pandemic time, it was important, in fact vital, that businesses had an enhanced digital presence. And we were finding that many businesses had very little of a digital presence to support their work prior to the pandemic. So we were able, with the support of our post-secondary institutions and some government funding, to have some students in place to help businesses really transform their digital presence and the digital work that they were doing. And it was really the success of that program and of others that we've worked on before that made us so pleased to work with the BC Chamber and the institutions today on this program, because I think going forward, there are just some phenomenal opportunities for business to access some really brilliant minds out there who are keen as anything to get involved with work integrated learning experiences. A great opportunity for the businesses and a fantastic opportunity for students who really are craving right now those learning opportunities. So I think this is a really exciting initiative, and I'm really pleased that it's the Burnaby Board of Trade leading the way in the Lower Mainland for getting this initiative into the hands of businesses. So with that, I'll be quiet now and I'll move on, and I'll introduce our first speaker, Kristin van der Griend, who's the Program Manager for Talent Forward, which is a program run through the BC Chamber of Commerce and the Association for Cooperative Education and Work Integrated Learning. Kristin, I'll hand it over to you.
Great, thank you so much, Paul. We're really delighted to be here as Talent Forward and to be supporting this webinar, and a big thanks to the Burnaby Board of Trade for working with us on this initiative. So as Paul mentioned, we are a program, we're a recently launched program that supports businesses in connecting with students. And as Paul mentioned, we are a joint project between the BC Chamber of Commerce and ACE Will, If you haven't heard of ACEWEL, it's a professional association that supports public post-secondaries who have work integrated learning programs. We do a number of different things through our programs. So one of the things that we do is we host events like this. We host and coordinate. We also have a number of resources on our website that can support you with connecting with students. And we also are there as advisors. So if you ever have questions about trying to find the right student talent for your organization, we are available to support with that as well. So today, as we get started with the webinar, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a primer to help you understand the landscape of work integrated learning in BC. So across BC, we have 25 public post-secondary schools that offer what we call work integrated learning, and you'll hear us sometimes call it WIL for short. And what the work integrated learning is it's an opportunity for students to take what they're learning in school and then apply it in the real world, or sometimes in a practice setting as well. The hallmarks of work integrated learning is that it's going to be a partnership between an organization, post-secondary school, and a student as well. And generally, we do see that a lot of the opportunities for work integrated learning, many of them are paid, but there are also other unpaid opportunities to connect with students too. At the end of the day, we're really looking for students to be able to gain some practical skills and experience that's going to allow them to come into the labor market and contribute really quickly. We're looking for them to improve their employability, build their personal agency, and really develop that skill of lifelong learning. And on the other side, we're really hoping that employers and organizations are really going to benefit from this partnership as well. It's going to allow them to see the new talent that's coming in and to really help shape some of those skills for the future as well. We're very lucky in BC because we actually have quite a few different types of work integrated learning programs available. And I just wanted to run through these really quickly with you to help you understand just the breadth of opportunity there is to work with students. And then our amazing presenters are going to come and they're going to speak a little bit more to the specific programs that they have within each of their institutions. So first of all, if you're an employer who is looking, who wants to do a little bit of research, there are actually applied research programs that are available for you to participate in. And so this might be consulting projects, design projects, community-based research. Next, there's apprenticeship. So if you are an organization, a trades-based organization, apprenticeship, you're probably very familiar already with this model, but apprenticeship allows students to work under a certified journey person to build those skills and experience. Probably one of the most well-known types of work integrated learning is cooperative education. We also just call it co-op. So under cooperative education, students are actually able to take what they've learned in school and go into the workforce for usually in full-time positions over an entire work term. And then the idea is that they're going to then go back to school, get some more education, and then come back into the workplace again. So generally this is full-time and it will run over the duration of the semester. We have entrepreneurship programs too, and this is some newer programs that have come in more recently, which is really exciting. This allows students to actually work on their business startups, or they could advance external ideas that address real world problems. Field placements are another type of work integrated learning, and these are different than co-ops. So usually what a field placement is, it allows a student to come in for an intensive, either part-time or short-term opportunity to get that practical hands-on experience. And the duration can really vary according to the institution that you're working with. Practicums and placements, you might be familiar with these. These are really common in industries that require certification or licensing. So some industries that commonly use this type of model might be education, nursing, social work, but the student would be working under the supervision of an experienced or licensed professional to be able to get hours related to the certification or licensing that they're looking for. And then we have internships as well. Internships are just a bit of a different model. But they could be full-time work. Sometimes they're up to 16 months long, so they are sometimes longer. They can be during an academic program. But we also see sometimes internships at the end of an academic program as well. And then wrapping up with just two final types of work integrated learning. Service learning allows students to work in partnership with a community-based organization to apply their knowledge to a challenge identified by the community. So that can be applied in a lot of different ways. And lastly, work experience. So work experience is 1 or 2 work terms. They're usually full-time that are integrated into the academic program. Again, giving students this really practical experience. So hopefully that gives you a sense of just the many different opportunities there are to work with students here in BC. And I want to just pass it back to Paul so that we can get started with hearing from the different institutions represented here today.
Thanks, Kristen. I appreciate that, and great to hear about the breadth of opportunities that exist out there for businesses to access student talent. It's probably, I would imagine, a lot more than many of our guests here today would have previously known. So I'd like to introduce our speakers now, and we're going to start off with BCIT, and we have Susanna Kann and Christina Hagberg. Susanna is the program head for the Centre for Workplace Education, and Christina is the program planning analyst for BCIT's School of Business and Media. And they're going to be discussing the variety of work integrated learning opportunities that exist just down the road from me at BCIT. So Susanna and Christina, welcome.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for the introduction, Paul. Just trying to get my screen in play here. Okay. Okay. I think okay. I think we're set. Sorry. All right, thank you so much, Paul, for the introduction. Christina and I are really excited to be here today to talk about the BCIT WIL, or Work Integrated Learning Opportunities, which really stems across all of the 6 schools that we have here at BCIT. And before we launch into those specifics, just wanted to take a quick moment to really give an overview of BCIT. With 50 students attending and enrolling annually, we have 18,000 students that are full-time students coming into our programs, and then 30,000 students are coming in for part-time programs. And so what we are going to be talking today is focusing really on those full-time students, those 18,000 students that are coming in. The diversity that you'll see, as a potential employer hiring into student talent from BCIT of our students is that the students are coming in from multifaceted ways. So they could be coming in from high school, they could be coming in directly from workforce and changing directions in their career. Other students we have completed other post-secondary programs and are coming in to learn something new or to complement their existing education. And so one of the highlights of going to school at BCIT is the students are engaged in cohort learning environments. So that could be anywhere from 16 students to 25 students working together, hands-on, really applying the theory into projects, assignments, and group work right from the very beginning of their experience and their journey at BCIT. And so what that looks like for them is a very intensive, and sometimes it can be described like a boot camp style of learning, where they are really taking 7 to 9 courses within a 4-month duration, and that's over a 2-year period. So that can make for a very intensive experience. And at the same time, it really sets the stage up for a student to go into the workplace with a lot of characteristics that they eventually have and that they actually form. And so because of the intensity of the programs that they're engaged in, they're often very self-disciplined, they're extremely focused and very driven. We've talked about the hands-on and practical experiences that they have through the assignments and the projects. They're really amazing at adapting, innovating, and just being really resilient as they need to be as they jump from one assignment, one project, and one presentation to another. And I'm always very impressed at how strong the communication skills are and how team-oriented the students are also. And so when we talk about work integrated learning at BCIT, the work integrated learning happens across all schools, as mentioned, and as Kristen mentioned in outlining the types of work integrated learning, you will find on this slide here that every school has, different co-ops, practicums, projects, consulting projects, and so on. So we will dive into a few of those here today, just to give you a sense of a little bit more specifics. Christina is going to focus solely on the School of Business and Media, and I'll dive into a few of the program areas from the other schools. And something to note is that because the WIL, or the work integrated learning, they are all embedded as requirements in the program areas, the students are actually leaving campus with industry ready experience and ready to go. And oftentimes the students in our program or our co-op programs and practicums, employers are often mentioning how quickly the students are able to onboard and how impressed they are by that. And going specifically to the co-op programs, we have 12 programs that are under the co-op umbrella, where these students are working full-time. They're working anywhere, it depends on the program area, from 4 months to 12 months in full-time paid experiences. This makes for a very rich experience, and the employers are treating the students just like a regular staff in co-op experiences. And so for us, and this depends on the program area, but our employer partners are really focused in at 60 to 80% coming from the small to medium-sized local companies in the area here. And so that ecosystem is really an important partnership for us. There are employers that specifically use our co-op programs to pipeline into their full-time recruitment, and they actually make use of co-ops to actually build and grow their businesses. So something that's a real benefit in both ways. On the screen, just highlighting 5 specific program areas. In case anyone who's listening who might be looking for summer hires, we have students that are in the Bachelor of Engineering program, the Biotechnology program, as well as the CNC Machinist area, the HVAC area, and as well as the Electrical and Computing Engineering Technology programs. Okay. And off to another example of where work integrated learning, or WIL, happens is within the School of Computing and Academic Studies. And so within this program, there is something called the Computing Industry Student Sponsored Projects, or sometimes called ISSP, as we like to call it. And these are really, really interesting because these are projects or problems that are actually submitted by industry or by employers who want to partner about something that they're hoping to solve as a solution for their business. And so those solutions could be anywhere from a mobile development or web development project to database to machine learning. So it really depends on what the need is and how those can be matched. This happens 3 times a year, so employers are able to participate 3 times a year, September, January, and April, and it really is a very nominal fee of $500 participation fee to participate and have anywhere from 4 to 5 students working on the project. One example that I really wanted to highlight, last fall, there was a project done for the BC Women's Hospital, and the students were able to take a complex nursing paper-based scheduling system and turned it into a web application called Smart Roster. And so you can imagine the positive results that have been experienced in alleviating workload, minimizing human error, and really optimizing the schedules for the nurses. And so that was really a win-win scenario. The app is still being used to date, and it's just been a really positive experience for the students, also for the Women's Hospital. And that's just one example of a way that you can also, as an employer, interact with the students. And the students, because it is part of their academic experiences, the students are not paid. So this is actually an experience that they are graded on. Next, we have an example of a practicum. So this comes out of the School of Construction and the Environment. The program is called the Architectural and Building Technology program. And so this is a one-week practicum that the students partake in, again, a mandatory component as part of the graduation requirements, where they work for 1 week in March, just before they graduate in May. And so what that means is that the students are coming into the workplaces. Employers are really able to really give a 1 week interview process to these students and really kind of determine, oh, could this person be a nice fit or not full time? And that has been a really year over year, an amazing opportunity for both students and employers to, again, another win-win situation where students are being pipelined into full-time opportunities. And typically on an annual basis, we usually have an industry mixer where students are meeting employers face-to-face. And unfortunately, of course, this year that didn't happen. However, we were able to transition that to an online environment with the same positive results. So that has been also another amazing wheel experience at BCIT. And next, I'm going to just speak to apprenticeships. So with apprenticeships being very self-directed, with students or apprentices registering through ITA, and with BCIT having more than 25 trades programs and apprenticeship training available, we have a dedicated team called the BCIT Apprenticeship Services that assists employers with general information about apprentices, scheduling and registering your apprentices, and also sponsoring apprenticeship training. So the contact details are up on the screen here, and I'll just leave it at that for you to find out more information as you need to. And so what I will do is now pass it over to my partner, Christina.
Great, thanks, Susanna. So as Susanna had mentioned, I am going to speak on behalf of the School of Business and Media, specifically on our work integrated learning opportunities that we have available. So Susanna, next slide. There we go. Perfect. Thanks, Susanna. So again, we have covered a lot on the benefits that we see for students and the benefit we see for employers as well. And for the School of Business and Media, it's very much the same. For students, they are getting that applied learning hands-on experience that they are so familiar with getting at BCIT. And again, it connects them with employers and heads them onto their career path. And for employers, again, we also see it as a recruitment pathway as well, and bringing in that new ideas, those innovative ideas into their industry. So the three that I'm going to touch on specifically are our business consulting projects, our internships and our practicums, and our work terms. Okay, next slide. So the first one that I'm going to cover today is our business consulting projects. So this is where we see a team of 2 to 3 students that are matched with a local business to provide recommendations to a specific challenge or problem that they're having within their business. Now, BCPs are a little different from your traditional internship or a co-op, where students are not assigned roles within the company itself. So they are actually filling a consulting role for the organization. So they are going to be doing their research, and at the end, an organization is going to receive a report and receive an oral presentation on the recommendations and the research that they have done on that organization. Now, a BCP, it really is a win-win situation because, again, the students are getting that real-world experience and the employers are also getting that connection with students with new innovative ideas. But for BCIT School of Business and Media, we also see the connection with industry being absolutely key as well. And it's a way for us to really advance our education programs forward, so that we know that our students are coming into industry for industry needs, having the top education and the new innovative ideas that are really required going forward. Okay, next slide. Okay, so one example I just wanted to bring in regards to our business consulting projects is one that happened with this team of students here and with Craftsman Collision. So they were involved to look specifically for any inefficiencies, which again was a challenge because Craftsman Collision is already a successful company, and they were at their flagship store here in Vancouver, and the proposed recommendations that the students came forward with were projected to increase revenue by about $600,000, and that was just for that one location. This team of students won an award for their business and consulting project, and it was really just an incredible win-win situation across the board. So that's just one example I wanted to highlight as well. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the second work integrated learning opportunity that we have at the School of Business is our internships and our practicums. So this is where we're providing businesses with eager, ready students that are at the end of their term and have completed most of their academic curriculum in their program and being brought out into the workforce. And really, again, students are benefit by getting that hands-on experience. But for employers, they get to see the opportunity of trying out a potential new employee. So having somebody come in at an entry-level position and see what it's like at no risk, really. And we hear from businesses time after time just the new energy that a student brings, new innovative ideas, but also the new energy that they're bringing to the organization for current existing staff. So everybody really feeds off of that new energy, and it's really just an incredible thing for businesses to experience. Okay, next slide, Susanna. So one example I wanted to highlight in regards to our internships and our practicums is our professional sales program. And they start their practicum process with a career night. So what they do is it's structured like an open networking session where most employers are actually actively recruiting as they go along. Now, clearly this photo is taken pre-COVID. This year, our professional sales program did their career night online. And they did have breakout sessions, one-on-ones, where employers were able to really connect with students. Now, as you can see here, 60 to 70% of students get offered full-time positions from their practicum. So it really is an incredible opportunity for students to bridge that connection with employers. And again, as we talked about often about that new energy. Now, Sophos, that's quoted below, they have been a practicum sponsor for many years, and they have actually hired over 30 professional sales graduates out of our program in just being in connection with hiring those students on in their practicums and then bringing them on in the end as well. So perfect. As well, on top of this as well, Paul had mentioned it as well, BCIT was also a part of the work integrated learning for the members for the Burnaby Board of Trade. And we had 2 students from our new media design and development program that assisted 37 businesses with, again, a variety of web development needs, social media needs. And it was such an incredible partnership to be involved with the Burnaby Board of Trade in being able to help your members. Okay, next slide, Susanna. And then the last one I just wanted to cover is our work integrated learning work terms that we have. Now, these are specifically in the Bachelor of Accounting programs and soon to be in our Bachelor of Business Administration program. Now, it is optional in the Bachelor of Accounting, but it really is highly sought after because students really, again, want that hands-on experience. And students are fully integrated into the organization for about a 4 to 8 month work term. Okay, that's on to the next slide. That's us for BCIT. We've got some contacts here. I'm the Program Planning Analyst and Business Liaison for the School of Business and Media. So any questions are welcome to come to me. Susanna as well for the Center for Workplace Education. And Susanna, we can go on a little more about our co-op programs and our work integrated learning programs. We've got the links there as well. Paul, thank you. And to Talent Forward, thank you so much to you and the Burnaby Board of Trade for this opportunity to highlight our students or programs.
That's excellent. Thanks very much, Christina and Susanna. Really great information there. And thanks for sharing all of that. And I'm sure we'll have some more questions for you later. I'll just remind everybody, if a question pops into your head that you'd like us to put to any of our speakers, please feel free to post them in the Q&A. Or I suppose the chat room, but the Q&A would be great. Post them in there and we'll get to them as we move through. So next we have from Douglas College, Leanne Johnston, who started there as a tourism instructor and then went on to obtain her Masters of Applied Arts in Leadership and Training from Royal Roads. She returned to the college to work in cooperative education. And in the last 13 years, the co-op partnerships supporting student co-op work term hires have risen from 9 programs in 3 faculties to more than 20 programs in 4 faculties. And the co-op team is now really an integral part of the Career Centre on both campuses. So Leanne, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you very much, Paul. Welcome, everyone. And I will just get my PowerPoint up. Hopefully everyone can see that. It's a real honor to be here this afternoon to promote our wonderful students to the business community within Burnaby. As Paul said, I'm Leanne Johnston. I'm the coordinator here at Douglas College in Cooperative Education. And before we get rolling, I would just like to acknowledge that I'm here in the New West, at the New West campus, and on the unceded territory of Kakite and Quequatlam reserves. And this is an opportunity where we're humbled, actually, to be able to work and play and live while we're here at Douglas College. So a little bit about the college. It was founded just over 50 years ago. We have the largest number of degrees and post-degree programs of any college in BC. And a lot of you may know Douglas for its nursing and health programs, but we also have numerous business and arts programs that you can recruit our talented and curious students from. Our main campuses are here in New Westminster and Coquitlam, and we have just over 24,000 students, part-time and full-time, that have been with us in the last year. So our faculties include Commerce and Business Administration, Humanities and Social Sciences, along with Science and Tech, our Applied Community Studies, our Health Sciences, and our Language, Literature, and Performing Arts. And throughout all of these programs, we have a variety of work-integrated learning, albeit cooperative education, internships, community service learning, and just a variety of opportunities that employers can take advantage of. So I broke it down as to what our students can do for your business. And co-op, you'll notice at the top, it says 12 to 16 weeks full-time paid positions. But what we're starting to see now is that employers are wanting to retain those students for a longer period of time. So the typical duration of a cooperative education work term is now rolling into 8 months. And the benefit to both the employer and the student is so far-reaching with what students can bring to the workplace through their acquired knowledge, and in addition to their curiosity and going a step further by wanting to learn more. And we really find that the students, when we do our site visits, that they become integral members of the team who they're working with. So to start off with, our computing science students can give you support through tech, web developing, and through network. And our computing science programs, we have diploma programs, 2-year programs, in addition to our post-degree and our post-baccalaureate programs. And those are for students who already have an undergraduate degree and are often coming to Douglas with a number of years experience. So they might be transitioning, I believe, as Susanna and Christina mentioned in their presentation, they might be transitioning into a new career path or onto a new career path, but they're also bringing some world knowledge because we have students coming from many countries into Canada to take advantage of cooperative education. Business management, our students can help you with those problems. They can help you with the research, the development, and the planning. Marketing, through digital media, market research, branding, along with event and fundraising strategies. In both our business management and marketing programs, they are, we have 2-year diploma programs in business management, along with 4-year degree programs. And we've just recently launched a BBA, a business management program, which has 6 different streams, including project management, human resources, finance, international business, supply chain. So students are taking advantage of either an internship or a co-op in their 3rd or 4th year as they're going through those degree programs. Our marketing program, and you'll see later in a few of the slides that I have, 2-year diploma programs. We're launching our degree program this September, so we're very excited about that. our four-year degree program, which will incorporate co-op as well as internship. But in addition to those, we have our one-year post-degree diploma programs in both marketing and in sales. And here is where we shine the light on our interns. And again, helping you with a variety of your needs. I thought I'd put up a quote from one of our colleagues here at Douglas, Michelle Perry, who supervises in our IT department. And they've been hiring a number of our co-op students in roles which we call students helping students. And as you may have gleaned from what's going on the last year and a bit, most of our students are working remotely. So, and a lot of our students are studying overseas while they're attending Douglas. So our students helping students have been a huge advantage to our IT department here, where they're working a variety of shifts because, of course, here it's 12:07 Pacific Daylight Time, but in India, it could be the middle of the night tomorrow. So, and a student might need help. So that's where those students help navigate through our systems here at Douglas College, and they've been a huge addition to the team in our IT department. In addition to the previous programs, we launched a supply chain post-baccalaureate diploma program a few years ago, which has seen a huge uptake, and more recently now, a number of employers taking advantage of our students working in cooperative education roles. Our accounting and finance programs, our diplomas, our degrees, our post-baccalaureates are extremely popular and really prepare, our accounting program really does prepare our students to go on to obtain their CPA designation. And our finance streams also has the opportunity for students to become certified. We've recently launched project management in our post-degree diploma and also as part of our degree program. And I know a lot of this is back and forth with different programs, but we're here to help and support you and guide you through whatever your needs are. So this is really just touching on what our students can do. And of course, through both accounting and finance, payroll, financial modeling, forecasting, they roll into a lot of the various departments within accounting firms of tax, risk, audit, and management consulting assignments. Our project management students organize materials and services and communicate with contractors and consultants on your behalf. This is one of our soon-to-be grads. Savine still has 1 or 2 semesters left of her post-baccalaureate international supply chain management program, and was very kind to submit this entry when we were doing co-op month last month. And what I found really interesting about her quote is what she was capable to do for Genesis Robotics. And as you're reading this, you will note she was able to quickly adapt to creating a manual for software that helped their employees go through step-by-step processes, and then recognize that in the finance department, there was problems with their codes that were being misrepresented or misused. So as she went through these 2 projects, and she's just completed 8 months working with this company, she has, as you'll note, has been able to shorten the gap and save Genesis Robotics a fair amount of money. On that note, I've been speaking with her employer recently, and they're trying to figure out ways to keep her on over the summer, because they don't want to lose her. And that's very typical of what our co-op students and all of our students can do when they're going out into practicums and internships. Another quote from one of our longtime employers rather, is MMP. And they often post with us every year to find cooperative education co-op students, along with grads that can move into full-time articling positions from our various programs. And MNP has hired over the course of, I think, the 15 years they've been working with us, close to 15 students full-time. So they really are an integral partner to Douglas College. So the first group of programs that I was referencing are really from our Commerce and Business faculty. The criminology, theater, and communication that you see here are through our humanities and arts programs. And again, these are the types of activities that our students can participate in through a co-op program. Our criminology degree program, I should point out, if there is anyone needing, does have a practicum component in it as well that the fourth-year students must participate in. Our theater students are available to help with, hopefully when we go back to some sort of normalcy after COVID, or as we're transitioning with all of our vaccines, etc., we'll be able to go to theater. Maybe Theater Under the Stars, or down at Vanier Park. And that's where our students can help you behind the scenes, at box office, anything related to the event. And then of course our communication programs can help with PR for writing your ads and promoting your business. As we move from humanities into science and tech, we have biology and chemistry and environmental programs where our students can help with a variety of tasks, from watershed restoration to moving into the labs to help you with the sample analysis, to moving into environmental to help with abatement and hazardous waste suggestions and problems. Douglas College has a Bachelor of Physical Education and Sports Science program, and within that 4-year degree program, we also have a 2-year Diploma Sports Science program, and students have the opportunity to participate in co-op. I do also want to mention that our Bachelor of Physical Education and Sports, our BPAC, Bachelor of Physical Education and Coaching program, also participates in field studies, field assignments that the students have to participate in, and they're very intense, short few days of students going out and working in a variety of roles in the community. Our vet tech students, Douglas is one of the, I believe, only institutions in British Columbia that has this program, and our vet tech students are highly sought after, and they're prepared to work in a variety of fields within the animal hospital, looking after healthcare, animal management, as well as lab procedures. And our next slide showcases Christine, who worked with Boundary Bay Vet Hospital last summer. And you can see from this, she was able to, with the knowledge she gained here at Douglas, and these are first-year students, so they've only completed the first year of their cohort program, are able to go into the hospitals and help in a variety of departments. From, as she noted here, she was supposed to be in surgery, and then she went into the ICU to help with medication administration. So they're extremely malleable. They can work in a lot of different areas. They're extremely adaptable, and I like to use the word curious because that's what they want to do. They want to go in and learn, and they want to provide the support that is necessary for that employer. We do have internships. They consist of 15 weeks, 180 hours of unpaid for-course credit that students have the opportunity to participate in. And this is where they can help you out through social media and marketing planning, procurement, HR planning, hospitality operations, international trade through import and export, along with project coordination and analysis and financial modeling. A number of these students who do participate like the option of an internship, because this is typically taken at the end of their program. And the advantage to both the student as well as the employer is the student can navigate through and ensure that they're moving into the right career path as they're getting this experience completing their internship. And the employer has the opportunity to observe and see if this is a future employee that they want to hang on to. And again, because students are typically at the end of their program, they're available to hire and start working right away. And from an employer's point of view, when you've invested the time to supervise and guide and instruct a student, what better way to hang on to a future employee than to hire somebody that has just worked through an internship. As I mentioned earlier, through some of the other programs that I was addressing, we do have additional forms of work integrated learning through practicums and field assignments. We've got in our Faculty of Commerce and Business, we have a number of one-year programs for medical office assistants, as well as office assistants, as well as legal assistants. We have our behavioral intervention program at Douglas College. We have our community support worker, which has 2, I believe, 5-week practicums throughout the course of their program. We have our opticians program, which again, those students are highly sought after, where they do a practicum at the end of their program, as well as stagecraft. So to complement what our theater students can do, our stagecraft productions students also have a 5-week practicum that is required to be completed throughout their program. So if you remember anything at all, you could reach out to our Career Center. That's our general phone number. That is our email. And we will make sure that we direct you and help and guide you to whatever services that you require. The one thing that I did forget to mention, and I just had the opportunity to sit through a great workshop earlier this month, is through our marketing program, where they do also have marketing practicums. And that is when employers are encouraged to bring to our marketing department challenges that they have. And our students are working in small groups throughout the course of the term to provide feedback and suggestions to that employer to help them move forward with their business. So we've had a lot of nonprofits take advantage of those opportunities. And there's also an event, that's sponsored at the end of the winter semester. That was the one that I sat through, that Envision Financial sponsors, and recognizes students that do a really, really good job. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. And I think that's it. Paul, I will throw it back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Lots of great information there, and Leanne's contact information is, well, it's not on the screen now, I don't think, but it was just up on the screen there. We'll make sure we can connect you to those people that want to follow up. Our next speaker is Muriel Klemetsky, Director of Work Integrated Learning at Simon Fraser University, which has been providing opportunities for students and organizations for the past 45 years. Muriel has decades of work integrated learning experience, working with students, employers, and work integrated learning programs. She's been a board member of Cooperative Education and Work Integrated Learning Canada for the past 6 years, and currently chairs the Quality Assurance and Quality Improvement Council. Muriel, can I hand over to you?
Thank you, Paul. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for being here and for giving me this opportunity to introduce our work integrated learning programs at SFU. And I'd also like to acknowledge that I am joining you today as I work remotely from my home on the unceded territory of Coquitlam Territory. Next slide, please. I am going to try to avoid duplication of what has been presented already, but I'd first like to start with a high-level overview of SFU. We've been selected for the past 5 years as the #1 comprehensive university in Canada, and we have 37,000 students, over 8 faculties, in both undergraduate and graduate level programs. We will be putting our faculties into the chat room so you can take a closer look there. In addition, SFU also has a fairly large international student complement from 137 countries, which contribute to the diversity of our institution and to the community. Next slide, please. In terms of our work integrated learning programs at SFU, just in the last 3 years alone, we've been working with over 2,800 organizations, and these have been over a multitude of different types of work integrated learning opportunities, which have resulted in over 4,000 co-op opportunities. And I'll give you a couple of examples in just a moment, but as I said, I don't want to duplicate what has already been mentioned. And there may be slight differences between our institutions, but for the most part, in terms of how we offer WIL programming, is very similar. And I think I'd also like to stress to employers that don't get overly concerned about not understanding or distinguishing between the many different forms of work integrated learning. That's what we are here for, okay? We as a WIL program are here to assist you in distinguishing which form is most appropriate for the type of work that you are recruiting for and how it fits into our respective curriculum. All we would do, though, is ask that you be really clear in identifying what your business needs are as it relates to recruitment. And what I mean by that is terms of the length, the type of work, the location, is it remote, is it in person, supervision level, ability to train and onboard. Let us worry about how your business needs align with our various programs. I think what's also important to note about what the WIL programs that are listed here is that we consider them to be curricular. And what that means is that once a student is placed in your organization, the institution is monitoring what they're doing in your location and their results are being evaluated. From an employer's perspective, this should alleviate, I hope, some of your concerns about hiring our student, as there is a built-in accountability for our students within your location. Students are actually graded on what they do as a WIL opportunity. And in addition, for all of these WIL programs listed, there are both provincial and national projects that are in development to support employers with the various forms of WIL. And a lot of these will be ready by the end of summer. And in some of these resources, we identify best practices for employers on how to recruit, supervise, and support students. Next slide. At SFU, our most recognized program is our co-op education program. It's been in operation for over 40 years. And as you can see, we have many, many undergraduate and graduate level programs, which are established in all of our faculties across 3 different campuses. As I'd mentioned earlier, we completed over 4,100 work terms last year. And this year, we are on track to surpass our pre-COVID numbers. In addition, that 1, 2, 3, 4, let's see, the 5th point, 54% of our work terms have a research component. So if you have any research needs, let us know. But we also have many students looking for non-research related work as well. Next slide. In terms of co-op, our scheduling, like everybody else, is generally every semester, so every January, May, or September. It can be for 4, 8, or 12 months. In terms of the work that's being done, that is identified by yourself, but we do try to ensure that it fits in where it is related to the student's degree or their interest. As an employer, we expect that you would supervise and pay the student if it's co-op in particular, and that you understand that SFU co-op staff are there to support you and the student before, during, and after the work term. Now, just note on that first point, if you can just go back where I said it's full-time, I don't know if folks are aware, but that is normally how co-op is offered. but because of COVID, there were some flexibility measures that were introduced where we can accept fewer hours, a minimum of 280 hours, which equates roughly to about, say, 17, 18 hours a week over 16 weeks. Next slide. In terms of what a student can do for you, of course, there's the discipline-specific skills and knowledge that they bring. And what I mean by that is if they are an accounting student, they're going to bring some accounting skills to your operation. But beyond the discipline, they can also contribute to your organization in many other very meaningful ways. Such as the technology skills that they bring. They can assist to integrate more technology into your products, your services, your operations. They are just a fantastic resource. And I don't know if you're like me, but boy, when I have a technology problem, I tend to go to our students or somebody that's in this general age demographic to help with it. They are just absolutely technology savvy resources for you to access. In addition, be it creativity and innovation, they can help your organization to look at new ways to deliver services, perhaps shift to new products. In terms of critical thinking, you know, if you're looking at evaluating any information in your business, they are wonderful resources to do that. These are individuals that can think outside the box and provide a new perspective and understanding for you to consider. They are self-motivated, they love to be collaborative, they love to learn from you. And when you look at that last point, flexibility, adaptability, and enthusiasm, I cannot speak enough about how enthusiastic students are. And we often hear from employers that they may be a bit reluctant to bring on students as they're concerned about, well, how much time is it going to take to train them or to supervise them. But once a student is hired, we now hear more often than not that employers are very, very pleasantly surprised as to how quickly a student learns and how quickly they adapt to the working environment and how quickly they complete the work. And given their technical skills and abilities, they can very capably research areas that they have questions if they're not sure about how to proceed. Next slide. Here is one example of a co-op work term that was at SFU. It was a science student with the Burnaby-based biotech company called Iprogen. For this co-op project, it was initiated last spring and summer during COVID, as the company was using an external service provider that was American-based. And they had concerns about the border crossing and the time delays and having their samples analyzed. So they wanted to determine, could they find a new provider for sample analysis for their business? So as part of the co-op work term, this student, Kelvin Lau, who is an SFU Science co-op student, he was asked to conduct research on looking at new quality Canadian providers. And through the student's work, Kevin was able to help identify a company that could reduce costs and potentially slow the turnaround time that they normally had. So once the student did his research, and once the company selected their new Canadian provider, the student was then asked to identify and look at all the in-house changes that would be needed to successfully work with the new provider. And these changes included operational processes and the necessary protocols to send their samples to the new Canadian provider. Ultimately, this co-op student hired provided significant cost savings in the end. So that's just one example. Next slide. In terms of how to hire a co-op student, again, very similar from all the other institutions who've presented here. Give us your job description, send it to us online or in an email, and we will post it. We ask that you review the applicants, that you select the interview candidates, and then we ask that you notify us of whom you'd like to hire. We post year-round, and we as a WIL program assist with the hiring process from the very beginning through to the offer stage. And it's important to note that all of our WIL programming in terms of support for the hiring process is free. Next slide, please. Again, we've heard about other sort of related will programming that institutions have had. If you're interested in recruiting students, we want to hear from you. Just reach out to us. And again, don't worry about which will program or which faculty or which discipline. We will ensure your posting is directed to the appropriate area. And any co-op job posting, as an example, it's available for all students from across all disciplines to take a look at and determine whether or not they'd like to apply. It's also important to note that we work very closely with our career and volunteer services unit, so that if your position that you're looking for or your position that you want to post does not fit into the existing will types, we will connect you or refer you to the appropriate area, be it career or volunteer services. One of the items listed here is entrepreneurship, and you may be thinking, well, how does this fit in? And for most employers, it probably doesn't. But if you want to see what a startup businesses are doing at SFU, I encourage you to look at our Venture Connections program up there. Perhaps you're interested in investing, or maybe you have an interest in some emerging product or technology, or becoming a business mentor. Let us know, and we can help link you with our entrepreneurial program up at SFU. When it comes to field placement, I have an example on the next slide. Okay, this is a master's student in fine arts, and they were working with the Arts Council of New Westminster. And the council was interested in making a major organizational shift, but they weren't sure if that was the right direction. So they recruited a student from our School of Contemporary Arts to conduct an environmental scan and to make recommendations. And in this particular field placement, the opportunity was just under 120 hours spread over 4 months, so only about 10 hours per week, and it was unpaid. And the experience provided, the much needed data for the organization, provided experience to the student, and resulted in a future offer for the student later this year. Again, this is just another example where, say, full-time, paid co-op model may not necessarily fit. And we get it. Some organizational needs and certain industry types don't fit into certain will models. And that's where we are there to help you understand how to make it work for you and for our students. The next slide. We're also working on a number of initiatives up at SFU in terms of a toolkit for employers. We're hoping that we can provide this information to you and provide some best practices that can help support you in recruiting from our will programs. We also have EDI material for you if you're wondering how to integrate some of those thoughts into your organization and in terms of recruitment. Plus, we also are working on a big project with not-for-profits called the Academy to the Community, where we were able to generate $1 million to provide the salaries basically for not-for-profits to recruit one of our students. Again, these are just a couple of examples of the many thousands that we are involved with. And I think that's the last slide. So contact detail is there. Again, if you're interested, go to that website location or email the icooppa@sfu.ca, and we will help direct your recruitment needs. So thank you for listening, and I thank Paul and Kristen for having us as part of this panel. So back to you, Paul, or Kristen, I'm not sure.
Me at the moment, I think. Muriel, thanks very much. Excellent information there, really informative stuff. I'd now like to bring back Kristen from the Talent Forward program, who I believe is going to be chatting a little bit about the funding resources. Kristen, can I bring you in?
Sure. So hopefully you can see my screen. We just wanted to highlight that when you are looking at bringing in a work integrated student on board, there may be funding options available to you. So we aren't going to go into a lot of detail about the different types of funding because there are quite a few. And of course, one of the challenges with funding is that funding opens and closes fairly quickly. However, we've recently had new funding from the provincial and federal budgets. And so we're waiting to see what type of funding is going to be opening up. One of the things that we have on our Talent Forward site is that we do have some information on funding. We have a handout that you can download to get a sense of some of the provincial and federal funding that might be available. I did want to highlight one specific type of funding that you may want to pay attention to, and that is the SWEP funding. So that stands for the Student Work Placement Program Funding. This is federal funding, and it's directed for work integrated learning students. Currently, it's open to Canadian businesses, and it's also open to nonprofits. And it's offered through 12 industry delivery partners. Some of those industry delivery partners are quite specific, like aerospace, but there also are several providers that offer more general types of funding. And so we would encourage you to take a look at the resources that we have on our website to just get a sense of what those 12 delivery partners are, and if your organization might be eligible for funding through one of those providers. Currently, the wage subsidy is it's a 50% wage subsidy, possibly up to 70% wage subsidy, depending on the type of student that you hire. And possibly we may see some shifts in the level of funding provided for the summer as well, but we're just currently waiting to hear from the government on that. So I encourage you to take a look at our webpage on the BC Chamber site. You can see the URL here, and just take advantage of learning about some of the different types of funding. As well, if you're in contact with one of the institutions that you talked to today, they would have a great sense of what funding other employers may have been really successful in using in the past too. So if you're reaching out to an institution, we encourage you to have that conversation with them as well. So I'm going to pass it back to Paul. I know there's some questions that came in, so I'd love to get to that component of the webinar.
Thanks a lot, Kristen. Just a couple of mentions of some of the work that we've been doing over the years about in the area of student engagement. The Access Student Career Development Program we've been running for a number of years here at the Burnaby Board of Trade with all three institutions that are represented today. And actually, Leanne, you showed an image of Savine earlier, and she came through the Access program, I seem to remember, and I met her, and a very, very impressive young woman, so I'm not surprised she's seeing the kind of success that she has done. But that program has been running now for about 8 or 9 years, and is really aimed at providing that connection for students who are near the tail end of their educational lives, or at least this part of it, and are looking for the next working opportunities. And it provides mentorship, business skills development, and connections. And also, and I think it was mentioned earlier, with the Digital Development Assistance Program that we ran a few months ago now, was a tremendous way to offer businesses the opportunity to move their digital presence forward. And it was great to work with the three institutions to make that happen. So the Q&A section, I think we're going to start that now. So again, while we're doing this, please feel free to post more questions. And I'll start off, and anybody can feel free to jump in, but I might start off with who we started off with, which was the BCIT team. The question is, I'm interested in hiring a student, but I'm concerned that I won't have enough work for them for a 4-month co-op term. What types of work do co-op students normally do to fill up their work terms?
So for co-op specifically, it can really range. It can be a variety of those projects that you've been wanting to get at that have been kind of on the side, sitting on the side of your desk, and those are often really important things that students can help with. In terms of technology, Muriel mentioned the tech savviness of students in general, and their ability to take the initiative and research and actually find the answers to something that maybe you personally might not have enough time to do. In bringing on students ourselves in our department, that's something that we have found very much of a value in, and that is echoed in the employers that are making use of co-ops as well. So data analysis, again, is another piece, and I think Muriel really highlighted that as an option that is very commonly needed and across all sectors. So I don't know if that helps, if anybody else wants to jump in from there.
Thank you. Any of the other speakers would like to add to that?
I think if just to complement what Susanna said, and again, I'll go back to what Muriel said, out of the box thinking. They're curious, they're eager, and with the students that we have working with us, I can legitimately say it's wonderful to hear, well, why don't you try doing it this way? Or have you thought about this? And that's the value that a student can bring to your employment. And as all of us have shared with the audience today, at the end of their term, often it works out that they're saving you money, they're saving you steps. We've all highlighted students that did that throughout their co-op work terms. So that's really where I see the value of having students on board, and often they're creating work that you hadn't thought about. So it's asking those questions. Muriel, I don't know, or Christina, if you have anything else to add.
I can just add, I mean, in terms of, what can a student do? I'd probably look at it from the other perspective. What are your business needs? What is it that you would like some help with? And, head to the institutions and ask, is this something that your students can do? I know for SFU, the one area where we don't generally accept opportunities if it is purely administrative. Okay, now there may be another institution though that has an administrative type of will opportunity. We don't up at SFU. However, if you want to post with SFU, if there's a portion of it that is admin, we get it, but we don't want it to be 100% admin. We want it to be discipline specific to their area of study and in their personal area of interest or career development. And given the breadth of programming that you have across all the BC institutions, I'm sure you can find something somewhere where students would be very interested in and willing to support your organization from a student being hired.
Thank you. Thanks, Miriam. I'll stay with you if you don't mind, just to kind of build on that. What would you say to a business who's thinking, well, if I'm having a student for what is a condensed period of time, I'm a little concerned that it might take me so long to get them up to speed with support and training and other education, etc., to get them up to speed to be able to be productive. I'm just concerned about how long that will take as part of the process.
Well, let me give you one example that I use quite frequently. I'm going back a few decades now because I've got that type of experience, unfortunately, where a lot of the larger chartered accountancy firms, they were hiring students in September to prepare them for the tax season in January. And then they very quickly learned that, I don't know if they need 4 months of ramp up. Like they hire them in January now to take them through the busy tax season and beyond the tax season to continue with work that still needs to be completed. Students are eager to learn. And as I've said, they're enthusiastic, they're motivated. Yes, you're going to have to take some time for training and supervision, but I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised as to how quickly they learn, and that, they will go to you if they need more help, or as I mentioned, they will conduct research on their own because they're quite capable on that side to confer with other individual students, Google it, whatever, like they tend to do their research first before they would approach you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on that one before we move on to another question?
I was just going to add to that the whole experience, like the communication aspect is super important in all of this, and setting expectations like right from the very beginning and having those transparent dialogues as to, the goals of the student and the goals of your organization, and just throughout the interview process and even when you onboard them, it's just very, just to be mindful of that so that then there are no unexpected surprises that come down the road.
Thank you. Thanks. Actually, we're getting some questions coming in on if you like, the more on some of the nitty gritty of the process here, in terms of what the costs might be, funding or otherwise, if those opportunities exist. And so there are questions around: is there a set wage or suggested wage that students might be paid for the placements? Are there additional costs that businesses have to think of, such as WCB or employee contributions? And do programs like the Canada Summer Jobs Program, can they be used to fund some of these placements. So a few questions in one there, but they're all part of the theme of how does somebody pay for this. So should we start with BCIT on this one? And Kristen, you might have something to add to this in some of the areas that you've been working in. So I'll start with the BCIT folks and then see if anybody else wants to chip in.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, our business consulting projects, the students aren't paid. So they're coming in. We usually ask a contribution about $500 to $750 that goes towards our student scholarships. So that is the contribution that we look at for our business consulting projects. But yeah, the students aren't paid for that. In regards to our internships or practicums, it can go either way. We've seen incredible internships come through that students, they're looking to getting that work integrated learning experience. They want the hands-on experience. So it might not necessarily be paid or unpaid. If it's an unpaid one that they know that they're getting the skills out of, that might be the draw for a student to go in there. So it could be either way. We've never seen it either way. Both opportunities involve. And then the work terms, it is their students are coming in and are being paid for that as well. I'll let Susanna talk a little bit about the WCB, but yeah, no, that's what covers for the School of Business and Media. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks.
And just to jump in about the co-op piece, I think it was already highlighted that any formal co-op programs are remunerated, so they must be paid. So that is sort of a must for a co-op student working full-time. The range I think is really going to depend on the industry, but and also how many work terms has a student completed prior. Other considerations definitely around minimum wage as a minimum, obviously, and yes, the Canada Summer Jobs programs do come into play to assist. With WCB, the idea is that because the employers are taking on the student as an employee, that the WCB factor would be covered by the organization. Maybe I'll just leave it at that and have anybody else jump in from other angles.
Thank you. Did Muriel or Leanne or Kristen have anything to add to that? If not, we can move on. No?
I think you've covered it all. Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Actually, I wanted to ask a question just to expand on internships, because a lot has been said over the years about, unpaid internships and, the rules around them and just, how they benefit the student. You hear the stories of the student coming in for an internship in one area, and if there isn't enough work for them to do, they end up doing something which is not part of what they were hoping to do. Can anyone speak to what if there are current rules around this and what employers need to be aware of if they embark on down the internship road?
Well, perhaps I can start on some of that. When you're looking at bringing a student on, are they going to be simply observing and learning, or are they actually going to be conducting real work? Okay, and that's a big distinction, because if they're contributing real work, we're going to be encouraging that they get real pay. That seems to be sort of the fine line that we look at. And also, how many hours are you talking? Like if it looks like work, smells like work, is long, full-time hours, it should be paid, right? But if it's just a few hours a week and it's directly, say, tied to their courses and it's more observational and learning in nature, then those are much more likely to be unpaid.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Muriel. Anybody else have any further comments on that, or we can?
Well, I'll just quickly add the internships that I have been a part of more recently, because this is something fairly new at Douglas, have been attached to our marketing programs, and they have a limited number of hours per week over the course of the term that they do have to work. So it's all of that information is shared with the potential employer in advance, of course. But we do encourage that it's an opportunity where it might be a mini project that your organization needs. And it could be as simple as ramping up the social media. I sat in on a presentation recently, and that's what a student was doing, working remotely, helping a realtor in the Greater Toronto area with his social media. But what was interesting, that was the basis of her working with them. But as we all know, a few other projects start to pop up. So she was able, with the help of this realtor's assistant, to get some other things done for him. So it was a great opportunity for her to apply her marketing, because she's interested in the real estate field as to what needs to be done and what's going on in that industry right at the moment. Yeah, it's definitely a win-win, and it is something where the student does get a little more involved with the work that those projects that need to be done. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Just asking the group, how are you finding, or how are your students finding the fact that any of these opportunities now being conducted remotely? Are you finding that lessons are being learned in terms of what both the student and the business need to consider to make sure the experience is a positive one all around? Let's start with Muriel. Let's start with you.
I was quite worried about this, Paul, when COVID hit, in terms of so many of our opportunities we either lost because organizations were concerned about, gee, we got to move to remote operations now, what's going to happen? Or as they were transitioning into remote, like, how do we keep our student? And quite surprisingly, you know, a few things happened. First of all, because of the tech savviness of our students, a lot of our students were being asked, can you please help us move into remote operations, or help our staff in, you know, moving whatever it was that had to be looked at from operating from a home base. And they picked up on this very quickly, and they knew what to do. And the learning, like, we've hired students as well at SFU, and we had to hire them remotely, and again, concern about, are they going to be trained, you know, appropriately? Are they going to get what they need? And their learning was just so quick, and they're, you know, they will come to you, they will ask when and if they need help. But I didn't find the move to remote operations a problem for most students. In fact, they quite enjoyed it. They didn't have to commute anymore. And, you know, they could focus quite readily on their work while they were at home. Like, we've had, for the most part, I'd say like 99% success with students working remotely. And when we asked about, you know, what are they looking for, say this summer or down the fall, many of them are hoping that they might be able to retain remote work, or a portion of it being remote at least.
Yeah, thanks, Muriel. Interesting. BCIT, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, we were the same. I mean, COVID hit right when we were starting our practicums and internships. So ours run between March and May in the School of Business and Media, and that's exactly when, you know, COVID hit last year. And I think for some businesses, and I think we can almost speak for everybody, COVID was a shock for everybody. And I think some people, it was such an impact that they didn't know how to, you know, it's that protection. How do I get through this? And so some businesses, it was a real adjustment for them, and a real panic, having to, you know, have a student on board and really trying to navigate COVID with their own relationship with their business and things like that. But again, our students are so innovative and so adaptable that, and all of us were in this situation. It wasn't just a specific industry, or wasn't specific to anyone in particular. It was everyone in general. And I think we all just kind of all jumped in and tried to help in any way possible. And we had businesses come forward who recognized that they needed some help. And it was a learning curve. It was a very sharp learning curve for a lot of people. But I think in general, everybody kind of stepped forward, and again, our students really were put up to an incredible task, which we've always prepared them for, you know, with industry and getting out into the workforce. This was unlike anything we'd ever experienced. And so it was just something we were, you know, the students came in with very big eyes and ready to really help. And so some of them came out with incredible feedback, and really definitely got that hands-on experience, that's for sure.
Thanks a lot, Christina. Thanks. And Leanne, any final comments from you on that?
Yeah, I'm going to spin this a little bit. Speaking to the employers, I was really curious how they were managing to supervise and integrate the students into their particular work terms. And like the students, they adapted just like this. You know, everybody figured out what was going to work best for their department, their organization. And I have to echo what Christina and Muriel have said. The students have excelled, and I think it's been a really, really nice fit for our students. We've had great success on both sides. So kudos to the employers for being able to welcome our students, allow them to do the job that they've been hired to do, and keep them on track and make it a successful work term, internship, whatever it is.
Thanks, Leanne. Thanks. I suppose one tip I would have for people is, and I think we found this in lots of different ways, is we're all working remotely, and sometimes, you know, communication slows down a little bit between parties, and because, you know, your inboxes get full and what have you. And I think it's important, if you're, you know, to make sure that the workflow is done as efficiently as possible, that we're all on top of the communication aspect of it, that everybody's getting back when they're supposed to, and that the communication is as you know, rapid and efficient as possible. Thanks very much, everybody. Kristen, did you have any wrap-up comments you wanted to make, or did you want me to kind of bring it home from here?
Paul, I'm going to leave it to you to bring home. Just want to say thank you for allowing us to work with you on this webinar, and big thank you to all of our wonderful presenters for the hard work that they put into putting this together. I know there's still a few questions. If you do have questions, we will be sending out some information, contact information from all the different programs. So we do want you to watch your inbox for that. And please feel free to reach out directly to these wonderful people who are going to be able to support you. So I'm going to pass it back over to you, Paul.
Thanks a lot, Kristen. And thanks again to Christina, Susanna, Muriel, and Leanne. Excellent information there. And I hope our business guests on the call today have got some really good ideas now as to what they can do to interact with the institutions and to get some of that student assistance. Thanks again to all of our speakers. Thanks to everyone for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of the day, and we hope to see you all soon.